Welcome back, guys, to the Ashmore SCA Survivor YouTube channel. Today, we are finally going to do the recovery video. I know it's been a long time, and I promised it ages ago, but the video got delayed quite a bit. I've had a house move and several other things, and honestly, I just haven't had the chance to actually do this video. Some of you may have seen that I was also involved in a SCA UK, a sudden cardiac arrest UK project, that is on YouTube. I will leave the link to that in the description if you would like to see any part of that. There are 5 videos, I think, in total, where we go through a load of different things, normality and fatigue, and what happened in our cardiacs, and a load of other things. There's not just me, there's a few others. So if you want to check that out, I will leave the link in the description below. So, the recovery video. I said it was going to come. It took a long time. But I thought with tomorrow effectively being my rebirthday, or when you're going to see this today being my rebirthday, 4 years since my cardiac arrest, I thought this was the perfect time to actually do the video that I promised 6 months ago. So this is effectively going to be the recovery video. This is going to be me talking about my recovery, how it went, how I dealt with COVID, and a few other things. It's not going to be a very long video. I'm going to try and keep it relatively short, because I want to go into some of the other stuff in separate videos, because I think that would be more in depth, and I think it would be better for you guys if I do like my PTSD. Like, I can talk about it briefly here, but I'm going to do an in-depth one a lot later on down the road. So that's the idea anyway. So obviously we all know the story of my cardiac. If you haven't, it is on the channel already. But I have had a few different what's the best word? I suppose problems, maybe. I don't like that word, but maybe problems is the best way of describing it. It's sort of the recovery stages I had. So in the beginning, after coming back from the hospital and having the ICD and everything else, I suffered quite a lot with anxiety, heavy anxiety, like severe anxiety, mostly around the actual ICD itself. Is it going to go off? When's it going to go off? Is it going to hurt? All these different things. And I never really got to actually looking at it into it, and something just buzzed on me computer. Yeah, I never really got into looking into it and having the right knowledge around the ICD, the right knowledge around when it's likely to go off, when it's not going to go off, and all this other stuff. It was just sort of implanted into me, and I didn't really get much sort of knowledge given to me about it. So I did a bit of research on it myself. And it was around the sort of time, it was like a year into having the ICD. So I'd suffered with this severe anxiety for about 12 months before I actually did some research into it. And the only reason I did research into it was I'd been diagnosed with PTSD, and my doctor, my therapist had basically said, go and find out what it's like, find out what it feels like when it goes off, find out what people were doing when it went off. You know what I mean? Find out stuff about it. Find out as much as you can. And so I went back and did that. And I came to the SCA UK group and I asked the question, and I got a load of answers back of how it felt. And believe it or not, as weird as it sounds, even though I was told, yes, it does hurt, but it's over within seconds and stuff like that. So I know it's going to hurt when it goes off. It alleviated that anxiety around it. It was phenomenal. It didn't alleviate it enough for me to exercise. I was still very scared of exercise, very scared of upping the heart rate. And we'll come on to that a little bit later. In fact, no, we probably should come on to it now, as it's part of anxiety, right? We should probably come on to it now. So, I actually have a friend to thank for this. And he knows who he is. And basically, this friend, Michael, and I say he's a friend, he's probably more of a brother. In fact, he is more of a brother. He basically decided that he basically decided that the best way for me to exercise was to do something I used to do when I was younger, something I used to enjoy doing. And one of the things I used to enjoy doing was playing ultimate frisbee. And he said, "Look, go and buy a proper weighted frisbee, and we will just throw it between us on a lunch break sort of thing at work." And I thought, you know what? That's not a bad idea. So we started just, casually throwing this frisbee between us. And then I noticed he was throwing it a bit further and a bit further and a bit further and making me run for it. And before I knew it, I was running round, my heart rate was up, and I was enjoying myself. I wasn't scared. I wasn't anxious because my heart rate was up. I was enjoying myself. Now, fatigue wise, I didn't last very long. You know what I mean? I was running around and then that was it. I was over within a couple of minutes. But yeah, that's how we slowly built my confidence up to actually going, you know what? Let's go and do this mountain. Let's go and train in the gym. Let's go and do all these things that I now do. You know what I mean? So I do have a lot to thank Michael for. And he probably doesn't like the fact I'm calling him Michael rather than Mike. But I do have a lot to thank him for. Moving on from anxiety, we have depression. So I was diagnosed depressive way before the cardiac. After the cardiac, it was very, very up and down. So 2019, I spent the first half of it indoors, same four walls. Couldn't walk into town very far because of the fatigue that we'll go on to later. I couldn't drive my car, so I couldn't go anywhere. My family lived in the next town over. They didn't live in the town I was in. So I was very isolated in the first half of 2019 when I was doing the first part of my recovery. Then obviously I got my license back and everything opened back up for me, and that was brilliant until COVID hit, and we all went back into lockdown. And so I basically spent almost 2 years. It did mean that the depression was a lot worse. There were days where I couldn't even get out of bed, like wondering why I'd survived this. Like there had to be a reason I'd survived this, and I couldn't find it, and that depressed me even more because then I felt like, what was the point of me surviving it if I don't know what I was supposed to survive it for? And honestly, I still don't know why I survived it. Not completely. I think part of me, I think I had to survive it in terms of I needed to start doing these videos. And while I haven't been doing them as much as I'd like, the thought is always there in the back of my mind. Like, I haven't just spent the last 6 months not thinking about this channel. I've spent the last 6 months thinking, need to get this video done, need to get this video done, and just never having the time. So it's not like it's like this thing that's ingrained in me that I have to do this. Maybe you could say that's the reason I survived, to bring light on cardiac arrest. Maybe I don't know. I don't know what my actual reason for surviving is yet, but I will find it and I will make good of it, so to speak. And I think since having the depression and since slowly moving into what am I supposed to be doing with my life? So obviously now I train a lot. I want to do these videos. I have a purpose now that I didn't have before. And the minute I got that purpose, it just seemed to ebb away that depression. That depression just seemed to disappear ever so slowly. And now, like, don't get me wrong, I still have the odd morning where I wake up and I think, oh no, not again, not this day. I can't do this. But I've programmed myself now to get up, get up, get to the gym, go and train. That way you'll feel better. That way you can do the stuff you needed to do that day. And that's basically how I've learned to basically get rid of my depression. Get rid isn't the right way of saying it, but that is effectively how it feels. Moving past the depression came from exercise and from having a purpose, a new purpose that I didn't have before. If that makes any sense whatsoever. We then move on from depression and we go to survivor's guilt. So, survivor's guilt is when a survivor feels guilty for surviving. And I think this sort of ties in with the depression with I didn't really know why I'd survived and why did I survive when I felt so low about myself. So yeah, it is linked to depression. Why did I survive when I felt so low about myself? Why did I survive and somebody else didn't? You know what I mean? Like, surely they should have survived over me. And this is a very dangerous route to take in terms of thinking, because it can lead to I wish I hadn't survived. And I'm not going to sit here and say I didn't have them thoughts. I have genuinely had them thoughts, and I have spoke to people about it. And to be fair, it was a couple of my mates that actually said, like, if you hadn't survived, like, there might not potentially be this YouTube channel. There might not potentially be all these people that you've inspired since surviving. You know what I mean? I've genuinely had people tell me that they have been inspired to do more with their lives because of what happened to me. People have stopped drinking energy drinks based off the fact that they may have played a part in my cardiac. You know what I mean? There's so many reasons as to why I survived in that now the survivor's guilt isn't there. But it was at some point, and at some point I did feel guilty for surviving. I did feel like, why did I do it? You know what I mean? And I think every survivor goes through this stage at some point. And it's not I don't think it's something that we any of us talk about. I think I've seen it once in the 4 years that I've been on both cardiac groups that I'm in. And so it's something that not a lot of people think about, not a lot of people talk about. But I'm sure a lot of survivors have thought it. Yeah, so I don't want people to think that it's not a normal thing to experience, because survivor's guilt is definitely a normal thing to experience, in my opinion. With a cardiac arrest that you survive, it is definitely a normal experience, and I think it's something that we need to look at more than we do, because I think it leads on to other stuff. It leads on to PTSD. It leads on to depression. It leads on to anxiety. I think it leads on to so many things that we do have to have a discussion about it. So if you have had a cardiac arrest and you are feeling survivor's guilt, understand that there is a reason you have survived. There is a reason for it. Nothing happens by chance. There is a reason you have survived. Now, you may not know what that is. I definitely don't know what that is. And most of the people around you probably don't know what that is. But eventually you will learn what it is. And when you learn what it is, that's when everything changes completely. Once you get past that point where you go, I found this purpose, and I believe that this purpose is why I'm still alive today, I think that's when you start to fully recover, like really recover from a cardiac. I don't like I've said in the cardiac group and in the cardiac project that we've just done in, what was it, 2 months ago now, October. I don't think you fully recover from a cardiac, but you learn to manage everything, and a lot of the time it's for the better. It is for the better. So we'll move on from survivor's guilt, and we'll go to PTSD or fatigue. We shall go to PTSD. PTSD doesn't affect every cardiac survivor, not that I'm aware of. I think it affects most, but I don't think it affects all. PTSD, for those that don't know, is post-traumatic stress disorder. It's exactly what it says. It's that after that time after you've had a traumatic event. And a cardiac arrest is a traumatic event. It might not be a car crash. It might not be war base like the soldiers suffer. But it is still a traumatic event, and it can still affect you for many years, especially mentally, which is where PTSD comes into our lives. Now, for me, PTSD came in, I think it was something like the September 2019, roughly about 9 months into my recovery. I started getting nights where I could not genuinely sleep, where I was that terrified to sleep that I stayed awake all night. The nightmares I was having, and I say the nightmares, it was always one nightmare. One nightmare that replayed over and over and over every night from September to March. That's how bad it was. September to March, this same nightmare over and over and over and over. And it was one of the hallucinations that I mentioned in the previous video. The hallucination where I feared for my life, where I felt genuine 100% fear that I was going to die within that hallucination comes back. And like I said, my rebirth day is today as you're watching this video. This still affects me today. Like, it's hard to talk about this hallucination, this nightmare that keeps coming back. Luckily for me at the moment now, I've progressed that far into my recovery that it's not every night from September to February like it was 3 years ago. It is now every 13 days, 14 days maybe. It's a nightmare that appears every now and then. It keeps me up about one night every 2 to 3 weeks now. And it started this year, it started in mid-November, so I probably had 2 or 3 nights where I haven't slept. And I expect it to go on until probably halfway through January. If that. Because what I've noticed each year is the PTSD bouts are getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter. So first year it was bad, September to March, and then each year it's just slowly crept in. And this year, like I said, it's barely affected me at all this year. Like 3 nights I think I've had where I haven't slept so far. So far, let's not jinx it. But PTSD is it's a hard one because it doesn't affect me the rest of the year. So I don't think my PTSD is the same as other people's. You know what I mean? Other people suffer with it all year, but I only suffer in a few months of the year. So how do you recover from something that only happens for a couple of months every year? And I think the way I've managed to do it is by doing stuff that I wanted to do, doing the mountains, doing the YouTube channel, doing the gym, doing the things I wanted to do. My phone is going mad. Doing the things I wanted to do the rest of the year so that my recovery was sped up almost during the rest of the year, so that when it came to that PTSD time of the year, it wasn't as bad because I'd moved on a bit more than what I had the year before. If that makes any sense in any world, because it doesn't make sense to me. But by living my life and doing the things I wanted to do has meant that my PTSD has effectively regressed ever so slightly. Like, it's not anywhere near like it was. Perhaps that is, I don't know. It's really hard to explain how I move past it, and I think everyone is different as well. Everyone's going to deal with this differently, but this is how I personally dealt with it. And I think when you've got a good support network around you, you've got family, you've got friends, you've got the support groups, and they're all there pushing you to be a better person than what you are or what you were. I think that really helps you in moving past some of these conditions. It helped me move past the anxiety. It helped me move past the depression. It helped me move past survivor's guilt. It helped me move past PTSD. Like, mentally, I have become so strong compared to what I used to be that there's almost like this. I almost have this mental invincibility almost. Like, Yeah, you can make me cry and whatever else on a certain day, and you can break me and whatever else. But mentally, I will always come back and I will always come back stronger. Mentally, I feel like I'm invincible. I'm not. But the thing I keep saying when I get challenged and stuff like that is, I have stared death in the face and laughed. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a cardiac arrest survivor. 8%. And if we look at the real numbers, we're probably talking less than that. Probably less than 2% survival rate. Myself, and all you guys that are cardiac arrest survivors, we have stared death in the face and laughed. There is nothing on this on this earth, on this world, that could even come close to that. You know what I mean? No one understands what we've been through. They think they do, but they don't. And we have stared death in the face and laughed and won. You know what I mean? We have won the battle for life. For life? For life. So this invincibility that comes from this, it means that mentally, it's a lot harder for me to have anxiety. It's a lot harder for me to have depression. It's a lot harder for my PTSD to take control. Because not even death can beat me. And it sounds incredibly corny. And it sounds incredibly silly. But when you start to fully engross yourself in, I'm invincible, even though we all know we're not. If you engross yourself in this I'm invincible mindset, nothing that comes from the cardiac can break you. You know what I mean? Like I think I mentioned in one of the other videos that I can't have a hot shower no more because it burns my hands. So I have cold showers. Have a cold shower at -9. You know what I mean? Not many people will do it, but I'm invincible, so I can do it. You know what I mean? It's such a weird way of talking about it, and I never thought I'd actually genuinely put it out as this is how I got through my cardiac. Final thing we have to talk about in regards to my recovery that I can think of off the top of my head is fatigue. I don't think I've met a cardiac survivor or spoken to a cardiac survivor that does not suffer with fatigue. I think every cardiac survivor suffers with fatigue. And I think every cardiac survivor will always suffer with fatigue. I'm 4 years in, I go to the gym, I train, I walk mountains. I am still tired a lot of the time. I still hurt a lot of the time. I still get up in the morning and think, I don't think I can go to the gym today. I am that tired. But when we go back to this invincibility mindset, regardless of how tired my body is, I will get to the gym. Regardless of how tired my body is, I will climb that mountain. If I have planned to climb that mountain, I will climb that mountain. And there are going to be times where my fatigue wins. And my workout isn't anywhere near as good as what it could be. And I didn't walk the mountain anywhere near as fast as I should have. Or I didn't get to the top of the mountain at all. But I refuse to let my fatigue win. I refuse to, from a mental standpoint, give in to my body. You know what I mean? Your body will follow your mind. The more headstrong your mind is, and the more mentally strong you are, your body will follow. No matter how much it screams that it's hurting, it will follow. And it will do it. It will do it. This invincibility mindset, if you can tap into that, the fatigue you suffer every day, you still feel it, but you can work past it, you can get past it. And it is hard. And there are going to be days where the invincibility mindset just really hasn't worked for you, and you can't bring yourself to do it. But a lot of the time, if you wake up and you think, nothing's going to beat me today, I am invincible. As corny as it sounds, you can do so much. You can do so much with it. So, I definitely think that while the fatigue is very hard to get past, and especially in those first couple of years, I really struggled with it. It wasn't. I'm not going to say it wasn't until I got this mindset, because it wasn't the mindset that actually did it for me. It was the fact that I got out and I got past the anxiety and the depression, because I weren't fighting the anxiety and I weren't fighting the depression and I weren't fighting the survivor's guilt. And it was during a time when PTSD hadn't taken hold, or rather, hadn't taken hold for its months that it takes hold every year. I was able to move past the fatigue stage. I still suffer in the 12-hour shifts at work. I still have a nap every now and then if I need to. But I can work a lot harder and a lot longer nowadays than what I could any time in the past 4 years. And that is purely down to the fact that I cannot be defeated. I cannot be defeated. This invincible mindset honestly has changed my life for the better. And this mindset would not have come if it weren't for having the cardiac arrest. The cardiac arrest gave me this mindset in order to do this recovery so I can do these videos for you. That's how mad this whole thing is. Like, I recovered from I stared death in the face, recovered from a cardiac arrest, and I'm here today telling you how I did it. Like, that is mad that I've been able to do that. I don't know what the next video is going to be, in all honesty. I don't want to go down the route of doing loads of different videos based on loads of different things to do with the cardiac. Like, I want you to see my life in I want you to see my life. I don't want you to just to see the cardiac side of things. You know what I mean? I want you to see all the things that we can do as cardiac survivors. You know what I mean? This channel wasn't just built as an information channel. This channel was built so you could see me walk a mountain and you could go, you know what? If he can do it, then so can I. That's what this channel is here for. It's if I go in, I don't know, go-karting, or I go and have a track day, or I climb a mountain, or I go skydiving, or anything like that, I want you guys to see it. Because if you guys see it, hopefully it will inspire you to go and do all the things you wanted to do. And that is the real purpose of this channel. It is to inspire all cardiac survivors. To show you that it's not all doom and gloom. We've all been told by the doctors, you're never going to do this again. You're never going to do that again. I personally was told I'd never walk a mountain again. I've walked 3 since. You know what I mean? I know somebody else was told they'd never run a marathon again. I in fact read this today, that they were never going to run a marathon again. And they've done one. They did one in 2015. It took them 6 years to get to it, but they ran the marathon. These are the things that I want this channel to show. I want to have interviews with other cardiac survivors so you can see how they recovered from their cardiac. That is what this channel was built on. Not just these information videos. But these information videos will carry on. There will be some more. Like I said, I want to do some on PTSD and survivor's guilt and all the other little things that affect us every day. But I think I have spoken for long enough now. So I'm going to let you all get back to your days. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas. With it being, 2 days away? Have a wonderful Christmas. A brilliant new year. And I will see you all in 2023.